Solidarity forever, solidarity forever, for long live Africa. Solidarity forever, solidarity forever, solidarity forever, for long live Africa. Environmentalists and a civil society from Kenya, from all over Africa, we are demanding that African governments initiate a process of cleaning up, of sweeping our natural habitats. And we are asking President Ruto of Kenya, as the host of the first African Climate Summit, to lead by example and order the clean sweep of River Yala, where he himself admitted that the previous regime was using to dump victims of extrajudicial killings. So we are demanding a clean sweep of River Yala, a clean sweep of River Tana, where we also discovered bodies 2 years ago. We are demanding a clean sweep of Shakahola forest. We are demanding a clean sweep of Tsavo, of Amboseli, of Mara, so that we can be sure that our parks, our forests and our water bodies are clean. And we are calling on every African state, wherever they are, to also order the same. This has to be an action point out of this Africa Climate Summit, so that we can be sure that our natural habitats are truly natural, without bodies, without contamination. When it comes to issues, for example, of fighting terrorism, Western governments are funding African governments to commit extrajudicial killings, and then those bodies are dumped in rivers. Here we are today, not very far from River Yala, and we have chosen to do this press here because River Yala is a very, very important water body in this discussion. And we are appealing to the governments of Africa. You must commit at this first African Climate Summit that you shall not allow Africa's forests, Africa's parks, Africa's rivers to be used as dumping sites for bodies of on victims of extrajudicial killings. We have seen in Africa our armies, we have seen in Africa our police, we have seen in Africa the intelligence committing extrajudicial killings, and then they dump those bodies in our water bodies, in our parks and rivers. This must cease immediately. And as they are making recommendations, as they are passing final solutions and action points, each government of Africa must commit that they will cease extrajudicial killings in Africa, and further not dump those bodies in those natural habitats. In some cases, we've even seen our animals being fed, these dead bodies. How then can we claim here to be engaging in a debate, in a discussion, to protect our environment, to protect our water bodies, yet these same governments are polluting the environment and our water bodies with, persons that they are responsible of killing? So let us stop the hypocrisy. We are calling on the African Union, when they are running the campaign of silencing the guns that we want to be silenced first are guns that belong to the states in Africa, supported by Western governments. So we must speak out clearly and tell our governments that we want the immediate cease of dumping of bodies in our natural habitats. And this is something we are saying as representatives of civil society across the continent, that this has to stop in every country, so that we can have an Africa that is free from pollution, an Africa that is peaceful and its prospects are bright looking ahead.
Majina naitwa Boniface Ogutu Akach. Mimi ni mwanaharakati hapa Kisumu, nikiwakilisha shirika ambalo linaitwa Kisumu Peace and Justice Center. Leo nimejumuika pamoja na wanaharakati wenzangu tukiweza kuzungumza kwa niaba ya vikundi zaidi ya 100 kutoka barani Afrika ili kuweza kutoa changamoto katika mazungumzo ambayo yanaendelea. Tumeona ya kwamba kuna jambo ambalo limetengwa wakati hawa wakuu wa serikali wamekutana Nairobi kuzungumza. Jambo ambalo linatusikitisha ya kwamba ni ya kwamba wakati serikali wanajaribu kusisitiza ya kwamba tukuze haya misitu, tukuze hizi rivers zetu, tukuze hizi natural parks zetu, wao wenyewe ndio wanazitumia kuharibu haki za kibinadamu. Tumeweza kuona ya kwamba kuna miili mingi ambazo zimekuwa zikipatikana katika misitu kutoka nchi mingi sana Afrika, kutoka Kenya, Tanzania, Kongo. Zote tumeweza kupata kuna kesi ya watu kupatikana wameuliwa na wametupwa katika hizi misitu. Tumeona pia hapa Kenya, tukiangalia River Yala, kuna watu wengi ambao waliuliwa na wakatupwa katika hizi mito. Na hii sio jambo ambalo linahusisha tu nchi moja, linahusisha nchi mingi barani Afrika, na ndio maana tunataka kuzungumzia jamii ya Kiafrika ya kwamba wakati watakuwa na hayo mazungumzo huko Nairobi, wahakikisha ya kwamba pia wao kama serikali wameweza kutoka na hatua ambayo watachukua ya kuhakikisha ya kwamba wamesisitiza hili jambo ambalo limekuwa likiendelea. Sisi kama wanaharakati tuna demand ya kwamba African Union iweze ikaamuru nchi zote, na pia tunamsindikiza sana President Ruto, manake yeye ndio ameweza kuhost hii kongamano ya kwanza, ya kwamba aagize serikali yake iweze ikasafisha misitu yote, ikasafisha mito yote, ikasafisha hizi park, kuhakikisha ya kwamba hakuna mwili yoyote bado imebaki katika haya misitu ama kuna ingine ambayo itatupwa. Na tungependa kuomba bara la Afrika through African Union kuhakikisha ya kwamba hao pia wameweza kuamuru nchi zingine zote kuweza kufuatilia hiyo amri. Yes.
So as we are continuing with the issue of environmental conservation, we must make sure that the environment that we are conserving is an environment that takes care of the rights of human beings. The extrajudicial killings that have been taking place, we know very well that a number of these extrajudicial killings, the dumping of these bodies, have been these habitats that we are now conserving, our forests, the water bodies that we have. So the African leaders must be in the forefront in ensuring that these places are not used as dumping grounds for victims of extrajudicial killing. As we continue with this summit, we know very well that there's a time when there was a crisis in Europe, and the former Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher, once compelled the industries in Europe to install the waste scrubber. And I'm very sure that when he was doing that, he did not have the consciousness of the entire world. She was doing it to save Europe. Now we're having African leaders converging in Nairobi. As we continue with this conversation, we must have Africa first in our mind. We must save Africa. Do not just converge there to have a conversation to please the West. Do not just converge there influenced or motivated by some of the international organizations that are dealing with matters of environmental conservation. But this must be done with the full consciousness that Africa is our home. Our responsibility to conserve environment in Africa should be because we want to ensure that we are in a continent that favors our living and also a continent that looks into consideration those who will come after us. So as you continue with the summit, you must ensure that this is taken into consideration. We must ensure that what is motivating us to continue with the issue of environmental conservation must be our people first before we think of any other place. Just as my friend had said here, that this is something that needs to be devolved. Yes, let us not just converge in Nairobi, talk nicely about issues of environmental conservation, but then when it comes to implementation, we are having very poor strategies of implementing the same. We want the government, not only of Kenya, but African governments, to make sure that they come up with policies that are going to compel people to conserve environment. Not just policies that are talking about environmental conservation, because we know very well that if one individual destroys the environment, it affects all of us. So everyone must be compelled, even if it is a matter of coming up with laws that are going to create national holidays for environmental conservation and issues with waste management, then let it be, so that everyone is roped in matters of environmental conservation.